Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings. Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast from Practical E-Commerce, hosted by entrepreneur Eric Bandholz.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, John. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. I was looking at my notes before coming on the call, and it's been 2.5 years.
Wow, it's been a hot minute. So that's like an eternity in e-commerce.
Yeah. Well, we're both still in business, so that's good.
We are. Yeah. Thankfully. Yes. Things are going well.
You've always been the friendliest, most helpful, and also like oddly the most like driven kind of entrepreneur that I run into. Like it's so unassuming with your warmth that I don't see like, like this real competitive nature person based on your outward personality, but clearly you are incredibly driven to grow and to build.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. Building businesses, building things, products, it's a real passion of mine. And, I love the beginning of that process, the ideation, I'm more the idea guy, right? And then I like to start building it. And then I like to let much more competent people than me take over. And, thankfully, that's a lot of the success we've seen today. It's due to the team that we have. So I can't take credit for all that. We have an amazing group of people behind us.
Yeah. For those who didn't listen to the last episode, give a real quick, 15, 30-second synopsis of what y'all do.
Sure. All right. Elevator pitch time. So my wife and I started Manly Bands. It's an online men's ring company. We started back in 2016 out of a need to solve our own problem. I have large fingers and I was getting married and I couldn't find a ring to save my life. One that I liked, one that was priced not too high, one that was different. And it just, it really bothered me that my wife had all these options and she was so excited. And I had like the little box in the back of the store to choose from, 4 or 5 options. And even then, none of them fit. So it was the kind of thing where I had to really either order something from a catalog or get something custom made. And of course, I didn't know what I want. I'm a dude. I don't wear rings. And it was just a horrible process. So I ended up just selecting something off of some website online I'd never heard of. It arrived in a flat mailer, no ring box, no customer service. It was completely horrible experience by today's e-commerce standards. And so we got married, moved to Florida, and needed a job. And so before we started just applying to all the random places around where we were living in Florida, we said, you know what, we're both entrepreneurs. Why don't we just take a stab at trying to start our own thing? And so we talked about the types of problems that we'd had and how we would solve them. And that ring conversation came up. And we said, you know what, let's put our heads together and see if we can solve this for other guys.
There you go. So you, instead of taking the easy route out and just getting your wedding band and moving on, you decided to embark on building a business, and you are very successful. Clearly, you're doing millions of dollars a year. You've got quite a large team. I want to go back to what you said earlier about you being the ideas guy. How long can you last on an idea before you get exhausted of it is my first question.
That's a really interesting question. I don't think I've ever had to really think that one through. It's funny, as entrepreneurs, I feel like, we always have a million ideas, right? We'll be on a road trip. My wife and I will just be talking about, we're both filmmakers first, oddly enough. And we talk about movie ideas or documentary ideas and of course, other business ideas. Wouldn't it be neat if there was a company that did this? Hey, we should start that, and we have a million ideas. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs do. And I think the hardest part is everybody always says, is taking that first step. But there is that other side to it. And you're right. That's an interesting question. It's like, how far, once you take that first step, how far do you take it before you're like, okay, this is a bad idea, or this is something I'm no longer passionate about. Should I put my energies and efforts somewhere else? And I don't know if I know the answer to that question, because I guess, I mean, certainly I've had a million failed businesses over the years. Manly Bands is not the first. And
Well, it's not
I think
failed
I just
yet,
keep
man.
going.
It's
Not failing yet. No, that's right. I know we're hugely fortunate and very lucky, and we have an amazing team. But I think that's the key, right? We haven't seen it fail. It's doing great. Like, we're rocking and we're loving it. And I think if it's working, you feel that passion. And so I guess to answer your question is, as long as you have an idea that you still feel the passion for, you still feel excitement when you think about, hey, how can I make this better? How can I grow it? What can I do to create an awesome product for our customers? How do our customers feel about it? I think it's those kinds of signals that you need to look at. And if it still makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work and pursue it, then I think you hopefully won't get burned out by it, or won't lose interest in it.
Let's go back to, because you are one of those, you've already said a quintessential ideas guy. Like, I can't get on the phone with you without like you delivering like 100 ideas. So let's go back to Manly Bands. You started Manly Bands, you're getting traction. Is your wife more of the integrator or the executor, or are you both kind of ideas people?
Oh, no, she's definitely more the integrator executor for sure. We've always said that that's really why the business works as well as it does, with both of us as co-CEOs and co-founders. We're equal in every way from our relationship to our business, and I'm really proud of that. And I think one way that, because a lot of people are like, oh, you work with your wife. Like, that must be kind of challenging at times. And honestly, it's really not. I mean, we still have the stress of the business and, on the day to day. But in terms of working with my partner in life and in business, it's really great. And I think I'm just really lucky that I found someone who's as passionate and entrepreneurial as myself. And she's a whole lot smarter than I am, and definitely the better half. But I think her being the integrator executor has really helped not only kind of ground me, because now I think a lot more when I have a crazy idea. It's like, okay, what is Michelle going to do with this? Oh, that's too much. That's too big of an idea. We gotta plan this better. But it also it helps because she's so good at it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I would imagine one of the advantages of having a really close friend or a family member or a wife or a spouse is that they're going to have that confidence to say no to your ideas. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we balance each other. Great.
What does that look like when she does say no, and maybe when you are incredibly, like passionate for a certain idea that comes in? Like, how do you guys work that out?
Well, I kind of have a process with ideas that I kind of force myself to follow, for better or for worse. And because I used to be the guy who'd be like, oh, I got an idea. And then I'd go immediately spend 6 hours researching it and trying to build it. And, the problem with that is you get burned out real quick, because you end up putting 1,000% effort into something that, may or may not work. You haven't really done the research. So what I like to do now is we talk about it. And I'll talk to Michelle about it, and I'll say, you know what, is this something that we should do? And we often have a little saying that we say back and forth to each other all the time: just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think that those are words to live by, because there are many, many times where, yeah, sure, we could spin off and do this or spin off and do that. But is that a good idea? Is that going to bring a better quality to our life? Is that going to be good for our customers? Is that good for the people who are going to be working with us on it? So we try to kind of ideate on it and then let it simmer for a while. So we'll let it simmer for a day or two. And then if we find ourselves keep coming back to it, that's a signal in itself, right? It's like, okay, well, maybe this has something to it. And if it's something where we just kind of forget about it or move on, then probably it isn't a good idea.
Yeah. So it's just like, again, going back to that original comment of that passion and like driving that. Have you felt like you've taken Manly Bands in a different direction than you originally intended with the business over these years?
That's a good question. It's interesting because when we started, our goal was literally just to pay rent. We just wanted to be able to live. We needed a job at the time. So it was the kind of thing where it's like, okay, if we can just walk away with a couple $1,000s a month, this would be fantastic. And we'll ride that as long as we can. And we very much thought of it as a lifestyle business, not so much a high growth business or startup or anything like that. It was really just Michelle and I in our garage, designing rings and sending them out to customers. And that was it. That was the idea. What we found is that we had really hit on something at the time. This is back in 2016, where our message for guys and for getting wedding rings really resonated. And a lot of that credit goes to Michelle, because with her amazing creative mind, she started naming the rings and coming up with these incredible personas. And it just really connected the rings and the products to our customers in a way that, just saying 8 millimeter black ring didn't really cut it. And so we found ourselves really connecting with our customers. We were creating these really amazing products, and it started to really take off. And yeah, since then, we've grown exponentially. We now have over 55 people here in the Manly Bands family, and about half of those are these amazing ring artisans that work in our manufacturing shop right here in our office in Utah. And it's just incredible. It is such a different business than it was when we started it. And I think that's all a good thing. We're very happy about it. I mean, it's definitely been something that's been an amazing learning experience. As I mentioned, we're trained filmmakers, right? She went to film school at NYU. I went to film school in Boston at Emerson. Never in a million years did we think we were going to be jewelers. And it's definitely been an incredible ride. And we're really grateful for it, because I feel like it's the kind of thing where, we saw the potential of the business, and we took that entrepreneurship and really applied it to the growth and the strategies. And it's been incredible. So yeah, no, it wasn't what we had planned for, and it's definitely turned into something else, but I think we're happy about it.
One of the things that you did, and I don't know if you did this before our last call or if it's been since, but you acquired your manufacturer, right?
We did. Yeah. We brought them in as part of the team, and it's been about a year and a half.
Okay.
And it's been just incredible. It's been so incredible to go out there and watch our team make these rings out of Jack Daniels wood, out of Fender guitar string. We have a lot of really cool licenses, and they get to play with some really neat materials. We recently got a wing from a B-29 bomber. We got a fender off the back of a M1 Abrams tank that we're putting into rings now. I mean, that's kind of our thing, right? Is these really unique and exotic materials, and that have a story, because everybody's relationship has a story. Your ring should tell a story too. And that's kind of our philosophy behind it. And so bringing on a manufacturing team has been just one of the best things we've done. It's an incredible group of people, and we're so grateful to have them.
How did you find them? Were you already working with them, or?
Yeah, it's a really small industry, believe it or not. We know most everybody in it, and I try to reach out and become fairly friendly with everybody, whether they're competitors or suppliers, manufacturers. I think it's good practice to realize that you don't need to be a crazy competitor. We can all be friends. We're just trying to, have a business and have a life, and there's more than enough people who wear wedding rings. I mean, it's pretty much almost everybody. So it's plenty of room for growth. And so we did. Yeah, we were working with the company beforehand, and it wasn't a straight acquisition. We kind of acquired the assets, and were able to entice a lot of the workers to come move over with us. And so it was a great deal for everybody, and it's been wonderful for the business.
So why did you, structure it that way versus just buying the whole thing? Like, kind of walk me through what that deal looked like for people who want to vertically integrate.
Yeah, sure. So it was interesting. So they actually were doing a lot of things that we weren't doing. Most of their business was wholesale. And so we didn't want necessarily to get into that as a D2C company. It was kind of, it was an area that we weren't really interested in, going to mom and pop jewelers and things like that. We gave it a shot a few times over the years. And unfortunately, we realized it really wasn't part of our DNA, at least right now. And so we didn't want that part of the business. And they were more than happy to maintain that part of the business and their brand name and all that. So they're still doing mostly B2B sales, and we're doing mostly D2C sales, 99.9%. And so it's the kind of thing where it just kind of made sense. We didn't need to acquire the whole company, but we were interested in, their assets, their machines, their lathes, things like that. And we could get that at a reduced cost, and then give them an opportunity to get new stuff if they chose to. And yeah, it all kind of worked out. It was an easier way to acquire.
Yeah. So you bought a bunch of their assets. They're still in business then? They're still selling? They are. Yeah, they are. They ended up hiring new folks. We ended up, like I said, kind of enticing their existing team. Yeah. How did they like that? I mean, that seems like they want to be very happy losing a bunch of team members to the person they just sold to.
Yeah, no, that was a good question. No, they were all on board. Everybody was happy. I mean, okay. Thankfully, we offer really great benefits and things like that. So the team was very excited to come over, and it was optional. It wasn't the kind of thing where they had to. In fact, there were a few that chose not to, and that was totally fine. But it gave them a chance to, it is because we were their business was slowing at the time, and our business was kind of ramping up. They didn't need all the people that they had at the time anyway. So it kind of worked out in everybody's favor.
Okay. So they were kind of like downsizing, and rather than just firing off a bunch of people, they're able to split their business in half. And
exactly. Yeah. And so now they focus mostly on B2B. And like I said, they plugged into our existing D2C ecosystem really well. And so they're cranking out, over thousands of rings a month. It's amazing.
So now, do you still work with that old company as well? Or are you pretty much, since you've acquired their assets, you no longer have that need?
We're super friendly with them. And we are. We just, we're scaling up in certain areas. And since they're very familiar with our team, they work really great together. And so we're using them for some scaling of different styles that we need. And so they're taking over some of the overflow of the manufacturing, and it's working out really well.
How long did that transition take to acquire the assets? I assume you had to lease a new building, get it all up to spec. Like, what kind of expectations should someone have in terms, obviously every business is completely different, but it will be interesting to hear how long it took you guys from like sale of the assets until you're up and running. Walk me through that.
Yeah, I think it was close to 9 or 10 months, to be honest. I think we started it must have been 2020, late 2020, 2021. And by the following May, I think it was 9 months or so. By the following May is when everybody started. We had kind of opened shop. And it happened at a really good time because our lease was up at our old building. We knew that we were going to be moving into a larger building. Ironically, we didn't really know how we were going to fill it. I knew we needed a larger space, but I was like, oh, this will be great. I can, put some toys over here, if I could keep my Jeep in here, and this can be like a workshop. Never happened. We got there, and 3 weeks later we were talking about how, okay, this is where the big CNC lathe is going. This is where, the walls need to be built. It was quite a interesting experience, but yeah, I'd say negotiations probably took about 6 months. We had to see if they were even interested and if that was something that the owner wanted to do. Thankfully, he was totally cool with it, and he's awesome. He works here with us as the head of manufacturing, and he's such an amazing guy. He works with all the different teams to make sure the new styles and the new materials and all that stuff get put in, and he's very happy.
So I got to interrupt you. So you bought the company. The old company still exists. I assume there's multiple owners there. There were two.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So they split up. Mm-hmm. One of the owners comes with you. He's now the GM of operations. So it is a very streamlined process.
It is. Yeah, it is. And then the other team's right up the street. So it's not. Yeah. It's not like they never see each other. They come over and, we do lunch. We see them at events.
But if I were really to like peel away all your positive and like PC comments, they were not on the same page, and they were battling, and they were not agreeing on things. And this was a perfect opportunity for them to split up the business.
I don't know. They were family. So it's tough to say the reasonings behind it. I think it was almost like a passing of the torch, to be honest. I don't think there was any animosity between them. I think they're both lovely guys, and they're, like I said, they're family. So I think what happened was it was time. The other gentleman was a little older, and, he had been growing that business for 15, 20 years or so. And I think he maybe didn't really see a way out. So he was like, okay, this is a good opportunity. Maybe we try this out. And the other person was a little bit younger, and maybe it was his chance to step up into a, even higher level, own it himself kind of deal. And I think everybody just kind of took the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll believe you.
No, honestly, that's the truth. I swear. There was no weirdness between them. They're awesome guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can, but it's not common. I would imagine it's not very common.
It's not common. I do agree. Yeah.
So that's really pretty interesting, and I would imagine quite fortuitous for you. Were there any other companies that you had reached out to acquire, or was this like a one and done kind of deal?
No, there were a couple that we had reached out to. Ultimately, they just weren't a good fit. But what we found with this particular company is their values were the same. They shared the same passion for exciting materials and the new designs, and just really, really appreciated the idea of making rings here in Utah. And they just they really jumped at it. They were really excited about it. And as were we. We were very fortunate.
And the price was just essentially at the cost of the equipment.
No, there was some payout too. It was
Okay.
definitely we wanted to make the owner whole
Yeah.
with everything that they wanted, so it was a good opportunity for everybody.
Yeah. Did you have to take any kind of financing, or were you able to buy them out? How did you structure that deal from a capital standpoint?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Our president is really, really experienced with acquisitions and mergers and things like that. And so, one thing he came to us with, he goes, it is going to be a lot of money. He goes, but maybe we could structure it in a way that kind of makes sense over time. And so we were able to work out a deal over time that worked for everybody. And so it's the kind of thing where it didn't cost us a ton of cash up front. We didn't have to take out any loans or anything like that. And
So like
it just worked out much easier.
seller financing kind
Yeah,
of deal?
basically, I guess you could call it that. Yeah.
So you're sharing like a percentage of revenues or profits. I would imagine, since you're not buying any of their business, right? There's no you just work together to establish what that valuation was and then pay it out over what, 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah, I think it's 3.5, 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And then any regrets or learned lessons in that acquisition? Are you going to do more?
No, I don't have any regrets. I'm really happy with the way it all worked out. Like I said, it's an amazing group of people, and the owner's awesome and has been a huge asset to Manly Bands. I think, probably the biggest culture shock for Manly Bands was going from like straight D2C and sourcing our rings from. We were working with a number of suppliers all over the world: Canada, Mexico, overseas. Like it was the kind of thing where now we can kind of bring it all in house, or as much as we can, and it's just been so much better to have that control. I really think that controlling your product, and really, especially from a quality standpoint, is so important. And being able to know where you're sourcing materials from, like the whole chain of custody from the rods coming out of the mine and whatnot to it ending up in a ring. Understanding that process and knowing your product like that I think is so much more valuable than just ordering something from China and having it show up in a box ready to go. It's not only do you appreciate it a lot more, but when you're manufacturing, it is a whole big. It is very different from just having stuff shipped to your warehouse. But I think you gain a deeper appreciation, but also your quality is much, much higher because you're now in control of the entire process.
I want to talk about going back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast. You come from film. The listeners can't see this, but John's got probably the best camera setup, video setup that you could imagine. And I've always been intrigued of manufacturing, obviously from like the quality standpoint, which everyone talks about, but also the marketing standpoint. Have you been able to leverage having manufacturing in-house at all with creating organic content, or also maybe selling it on your website now that you are the manufacturer and you control that? How have you utilize the manufacturing from a marketing perspective?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's huge. Being able to take a camera just on the other side of the office and go out and watch them take these lathes and cut the rods into rings, or cut the wood out of the Jack Daniels barrel, or take the Fender guitar string off of a guitar and putting it in a ring is just incredible to see on film. And so we have our camera crew out there all the time. And we use that on our social media a lot. You'll see it in our ads and in our newsletters. We really do try to promote that because most companies in the men's ring space, they don't manufacture. They just drop ship, or they order from overseas and then ship it out. But for us, because it's a wedding ring, right? You really want it to be something that A, is going to last a lifetime, and B, is just something people can really take pride in. And so we love that. We've had a lot of customers, as an example, they ordered a ring from us. Somehow they were at a holiday party. They had a fireplace, and the guy's putting the wood in the fireplace, and his ring fell off and it just disappeared. They couldn't find it. And so the next day they found it. Somehow it fell off in the fireplace. And so they sent it in. They're like, this is our wedding ring. Like, what, is there anything we can do? And of course the team was like, we can fix it. We can fix it. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, of course. And so I'm like, okay. And so we filmed this whole thing. I'll have to find the video and send it to you, but it was amazing. Like, they got all the char and the soot off of it, and they buffed all that out. And then they put it was a deer antler ring. So they got more deer antler, and they put that over the top of it. And it was incredible to watch. And we got the whole thing on video. And it was like, you know what? We wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have manufacturing in-house.
Yeah.
I mean, how else can you show that kind of quality and the kind of love and passion that goes into making these wedding rings?
I mean, this is just me personally. ending up on YouTube watching random videos. But there's a YouTuber called Modern Goldsmith. I don't know if you know of him or not, but the video was exactly the same thing. He had two of his subscribers who dropped their rings in garbage disposals, and they were destroyed. One was platinum, one was gold, and with the platinum ring, he was able to put some like platinum filler in there or something like that, a little piece of platinum foil, and then polish it back up, get it back into shape. And then the gold, because I guess the gouges were so deep, he had to like remelt it and reform it, but it was still the same gold, so it's like really interesting storytelling. And then from my perspective as a content creator, I mean, that's brilliant to be able to have a story where, where are they going to get that from? Any other company? Yeah, maybe they could get it with like, Modern Goldsmith, who's like a one-man shop kind of boutique. Gotta imagine there's some limitations to the amount of availability to that. So I want to, sorry for the rant, but I want to understand what your ads look like now that you're filming that content. Walk me through what the structure is for a high-performing ad for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So it's the kind of thing where we want to show the entire story. We want to, as much as possible, call out all the materials, call out the metal, and talk about each piece as a story. And so that's really what we're focused on right now, is crafting these stories and allowing the customer to connect to those stories. So, we've had a lot of success with our military heritage collection, and it's the kind of thing where we're sourcing these really unique military materials. We have the M1 Garand rifle stock from World War I, and we actually have the rifles. I mean, minus the metal part, it's all just the wood part, but it's incredible. There's no barrels or anything on it, but it's fascinating just to watch them, just put that in the lathe and cut a piece out for a ring. And so in the marketing, of course, we want to talk about the history. We want to talk about the soldiers. We want to talk about where the weapon was used and things like that, just the important history behind it. We have this amazing M1 Abrams tank metal that we're putting into a new ring that we're working on. That's just, it's really cool. It's a huge hunk of metal, and it weighs like 1,000 pounds. And you come in, and our guys are like, "Wow, that's a real piece of tank." I'm like, yeah. And then naturally they start asking questions. Well, which tank was it? Where was it? Where did it go? And so we try to craft that whole story. And, it's so funny what we're finding, as we're putting all this type of really cool content in our marketing materials, people are reaching out. I got this amazing email from a customer that is like, "Hey, my grandfather used to drive these tanks, and he got hit with some sort of missile or landmine or something that, he was injured, his back. And, he had trouble the rest of his life. And he always talked about it and the experience and what he did. And it became part of that family's kind of legacy. And so when this guy saw that we made the ring with material from that type of tank, he really connected to it, and he bought the ring and he showed his grandfather. And I guess they had this amazing emotional exchange. He said they were crying, and it's the kind of thing where it just meant so much. And so when he wrote that to us, we were really touched. We're like, wow, it's so nice to know that we can help customers connect with their past like this, and to create something so much more meaningful than just, some ring you buy off of Amazon or something like this. This is a ring that means something to this family, and they'll have it forever.
Yeah. And I would assume they don't have to wear it as a wedding band as well, right? Like you can have.
Oh, not at all. We have a lot of people who buy the rings, oddly, as collector's items, which was never something we really wanted to or were trying to do, but it just kind of happened naturally, especially the military heritage stuff. There were a lot of collectors who were just super interested in the materials, and a lot of them probably keep them in display cases. And, it's interesting. When we started, wedding band company, and that always caused a lot of trouble from like a LTV standpoint, right? Because people would buy a ring and okay, now they have their ring, and that's great. And so we would try to sell them other things over time, like groomsmen gifts, or we launched a women's side where we sell women's rings called Rosie Ray. And that's great. And that helps a little bit. But for the most part, it's a one-time purchase. But with the introduction of some of these really unique and rare materials, what we're finding is that people want to come back. They want all of the collection or multiple rings in the collection. And so it's been really cool seeing these customers who were normally a one-time purchase, now they want to purchase 3, 4, 5 rings, and whether or not they wear them as wedding rings or they put them in a collector's case is truly up to them. But it's, we kind of see it kind of like watches, so watch collectors, right? You might buy 3 or 4 watches, maybe more if you're a really heavy collector, but you'll wear them for different occasions. You have the one you wear on date night, you have the one you wear to a more formal occasion, or like a friend's wedding or something. And then you have something that you're going to wear to work or to the gym. And it's been something that we've seen kind of grow over the years, this interest in having multiple options depending on the occasion.
Yeah, I imagine the silicone rings kind of like set that mindset shift as well. I want to give you unsolicited advice. Or a tip, more likely. Do you do any kind of like influencer marketing?
Very little. That's actually something we're looking into getting into.
There's a YouTuber with the channel name called Garen Thumb, which apparently thumbs have been known to get stuck in those guns. And you could reach out to him and make a special like Garen Thumb ring. It might be kind of a silly collaboration. He's kind of a funny gun related.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to write that down. Yeah. Garen Thumb. Neat. Yeah. Thank you for the tip. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can people buy a ring? Where can they support you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, of course. So manlybands.com is our website. Just Manly, MANLY, BANDS. And yeah, that's our website. Check us out. We have great pictures on Instagram too. You can look us up at Manly Bands. But yeah, if you're looking for a wedding ring or any kind of cool ring with unique material, unique styles that you really won't find anywhere else, we are the brand for you.
Sweet. John, thanks for coming back on the show and sharing your knowledge and your warm personality and your friendly demeanor and your beautiful face. With this incredible video footage I'm looking at.
I appreciate that. It was great seeing you, Eric. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to next time.
Yep. Cheers. And keep on growing.